Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video we're going to complete the men's shirt pattern by doing the yoke and the sleeve. Now before to start the pattern of the sleeve, we're going to take a look at the armhole measurement that we found. And because of the construction that we did, the back armhole should be a little bigger than the front armhole. It should not be more than 1 centimeter. So you're going to take the difference between back and front and we'll remove it right under the yoke line. So my difference is 0.7, and we're going to create a little dart that's going to disappear into the yoke seam. The dart will be about 8 centimeters long and you connect both points. Now before to trace the yoke pattern, you're going to make a double notch since it's the back, so another notch about 1 centimeter further than the pivot of the dart. We are now ready to do the yoke pattern, so place a fold paper under your back pattern and put the center back right on the fold line. You could pin them together so it doesn't move. Then you're going to take your front pattern, fold the shoulder line so you could see exactly your seam line, and overlap seam line on top of the seam line. Also pin your front in position, and you're ready to trace all around the back and the front part of the yoke. Now before to separate your paper, you're going to also add a notch on the front yoke for the assembling and trace it with your tracing wheel. Since we already add some seam allowance, you could also just retrace the contour of the yoke where you already have your seam allowance. This part will be done. Then you could remove your pattern and put your seam allowance and your notch, and you notice that I indicate the shoulder line at the neck and at the armhole. I have my front assembling notch and my double assembling notch for the back, missing just the seam allowance. When it's done, you could just cut all around. Do your notch and add an extra notch for the assembling of the collar at 0.5 from the fold line. The yoke pattern is done. You put your grain line parallel to the yoke line, and for men's shirt and women's shirt it's usually cut 2 times. Now to really complete your bodice pattern, you're going to add your seam allowance and cut the excess. On the back, you notice that I did follow the bottom line, so my dart will be eliminated into the seam, and just cut on both lines. Don't forget to cut the front exactly the same for the left and the right side. Now that the bodice is complete, we're going to take another piece of paper and fold it in the middle, and we're ready to start our sleeve pattern. You took some measurement on the garment, and I just had an extra measurement of the armhole, front armhole, but now they're both the same. And we'll start to report the measurement that we found on the paper. So on the fold line, you're going to place your sleeve length measurement from top to bottom, and also report the sleeve head measurement that you find from the top. Then you could square line on the bicep level and the wrist level. The next thing we'll do will be the sleeve head, and you got your measurement from the pattern, and you're going to report it on the sleeve head, putting your 0 on top and pivoting your ruler until your measurement touches the bicep line. Then you could trace. At the wrist, you find the measurement of half the sleeve, and you need to add your depth of the pleat. For me, it's going to be 2 centimeters. Then you could connect both points. Now since the sleeve head is different on back and front, you're going to report those 2 points on the other side of the paper and trace the same line on that side. Now decide which one is going to be the back and which side is going to be the front. And we'll start with the front. You're going to divide your segment by 4. Go up 1 centimeter at the first quarter and down 1 centimeter at the last quarter. Then connect the dot from the sleeve head to the 1 cm, middle point, 1 cm down, and underarm point. On the back side, you're going to divide your segment by 3. Go up 1.5 at the first third and go down 0.7 between the last third and the underarm point. Same thing, you connect the dot from the sleeve head to the 1.5, then to the last third, 0.7 down and underarm point. Before going any further, you're going to measure your curve on the front or the back just to find out how much excess your curve gives you. In this example, my curve gives me 4 millimeter extra, and you should remove it because I'm talking by experience. When you sew men's shirt, your sleeve head should not have nothing extra, no ease at all. So we're going to remove it on both side seam and underarm point, the same amount. You don't have to do back and front separately. So you're going to remove this excess and just retrace your underarm seam. Now when your modification is done, you could take the measurement from underarm to the notch. You already have it, and just report it into your armhole the same way you took it. Since the armhole are exactly the same, your notch should be right on the fold for the sleeve head and shoulder. Now if we move to the bottom, we're going to shape a little bit the bottom of the sleeve. Divide your bottom part by 4. After, you're going to decide the length of your opening. For this one, I'll do it 10 centimeter. And you're going to elongate the back part 1 centimeter. If we go on the front first quarter, you could go up to raise it a little bit, 5 millimeter, to be able to shape your curve properly. I suggest you go down 5 millimeter on each underarm seam. Then you'll be able to connect the dot. Now let's do the pleat. From the slit, I'm going to place mine at 1.5 towards the front, and the pleat is 4 centimeter total. So I'm putting a second notch at 4 centimeter further. I usually put an arrow to indicate the direction of the fold. Then you could create your pleat. Make the correction if there's any correction, and trace the bottom to get the jog of your pleat. On men's shirt, we don't just put a little bias on both sides of the opening. It's a little more fancy. We do a real placket, and the bottom part will be a bias. So if you want, you could measure the width of your placket to be able to do it on your sleeve pattern. Mine was a 2 centimeter wide, and I'm going to trace it 1 centimeter on each side. Now that we did the width, we're going to do the length of the placket, and you should trace it 1 centimeter higher than the slit that you want. Then we're going to do the little shape we have over the opening. It's about 2 centimeter high plus another centimeter for the point. Now to center the point, of course, I'm just going to get the reference from the opening line and connect the dot. For the inside part, we could see it on this sample. It finished exactly at the opening line. So we already have the reference for the length, and we just need the width, that is going to be another 2 centimeter. Now you just have to place another piece of paper under and retrace your placket. Then retrace all the construction lines. For the bottom part, just use the longest area and square with one of your vertical lines. Then put your 1 centimeter all around. The grain line of the placket is going to be vertical and it's going to be cut too. Now just cut all around. The little bias piece, and for this one it's a 1 centimeter bias, so we need 4 times that measurement for the pattern piece. We're going to do it 4 centimeter wide, and the length of the bias is exactly the length of the short side of your placket. To find the bias, if you remember, it's the width of your piece that you go and trace inside, and when you connect both ends, you get your bias, and it's also cut 2 times. Finally, we'll do the cuff of the sleeve, and if you remember, we measure while the cuff was closed, so we'll do the cuff and add the overlap, the same one that we put for the little placket. So now I'm going to take the width of the sleeve at the bottom times 2, because I'm going to do the full pattern. And I'm going to put the width of my cuff, 6.5 centimeter for this one, and close both hands. On one side, I'm going to add my overlap of 2 centimeter, and if you want, you could shape the corner on both sides. And we're only missing the grain line on the length, and this time it's going to be cut 4 times, or 2 self and 2 combo, because that's a very cute detail to have the inside in another fabric. And then put your seam allowance on the cuff and all around the sleeve. It's 1 centimeter everywhere except for the back underarm seam, that will put 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, because all the underarm and side seam is a flat felt seam. Now the sleeve is complete, we just cut all around. Now don't forget to do your notch, and while we're there, they're all indicated except for the 1.5 seam allowance that you should put reference on the side seam of the back and on the back of the sleeve also, top and bottom, because it's a different seam allowance. All the other notch, you already have the reference. The last thing to do is going to be to cut on each side of the slit that you have, just to be able to remove a little distance of the paper. Et voila! That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I see you next time.